Three, we're on.
Welcome everyone to our study of the Ramchal's Sefer Higayon. As I mentioned, one could easily get lost in all the details, so we're trying to use the charting method here in order to make it as clear as possible. The Ramchal is very, very systematic. As a matter of fact, his whole book is based on trying to systematize reality, which is no small task. And the chart here is basically the three basic units that Sefer Higayon is broken up into. The first one, this on the left here, is called Musagim, and that's the area that we're involved in. Musagim is going to tell us all about concepts, where they come from, the different variations they go through, and finally how we're going to order them into categories and subcategories. The second unit of the book will be talking about the logical terms and systems of organizing your concepts. He breaks it down into three units. One is to understand what he calls Shemot. The second is to build statements with those Shemot. In other words, you have to take a nase and a nasu and put it together and make a unit called a statement. And the third thing that one does is syllogisms, which is adding statements together to produce new ideas. So that's his three-step breakdown of Higayon: terms, statements, and syllogisms. And finally, the last piece that he'll be doing is showing us how to use the system. So there'll be overlaps between this and Tfunos. As a matter of fact, as we study the book, I'm going to refer back and forth to it. And hopefully we'll be able to get a very clear idea of the Ramchal system and be able to apply it. Okay, let's look at the Sefer itself. Oh, I should go back to the chart just one second. Where were we holding? We were holding in the first category, which is just understand how the mind conceives things. Before we start using them, building statements, solutions, you have to understand concepts themselves. And he broke that, or he will break that down into three parts. The first part, he explained to us generally where concepts come from. They're either totally based in the physical world, in the central perception world, or they're mental concepts where the mind starts taking the objects of reality and making abstractions of color and making categories and concepts from those units of reality that we see in front of us. So that's what he called the Klal HaMetzius, and that was an introduction to the basic formation of concepts from their most base form, which is what you see in front of you, to their more abstract intellectual form, when the mind starts abstracting and building units of categories. The second unit that he's going to speak about is the variations that the concepts go through. He says you have a main concept or an etzem concept, and we're going to go through variables. He calls them mikras, in the technical language called an accident, but what we're basically going to do is going to explain the variations that can go on in any one of these musagim, any one of these concepts. And he breaks them down into 9 of them. The etzem concept and those 9 variations, which we're in the middle of studying. And finally, he's going to tell us how to build units in general, how to build units with these concepts of going from the prat to the min to the sub to the sub and so on. And that's how we'll be able to make our organizational chart. We're in the second unit of concepts, and we're talking about the third unit here. We already spoke about the variation or the variable of quantity, discrete and continuous. We went to a long discussion last time of quality, and there's human qualities and physical qualities, and he went through a long discussion of all the human qualities, all the different kinyanim that a person can have, whether they're intellectual kinyanim or practical kinyanim or crafts that he could learn, etc. We're going to, Bez Hashem, be going through these variations, these nikrim, in this class, and maybe we can get into the third part of the categorization if we have the time. Okay, let's go now to the text. As we said, you have the etzem concept, the musag that you're talking about, the idea that you're talking about, whether it's whichever level it is, whether it's a muchash or whether it's a musag. You have the etzem concept, and then you say things about it. It goes through variations. So we spoke about the kamas last time and the echus, and now we're ready to talk about the pu'ula. These items can do actions. So the pu'ula hu is oris ha'etzem ogilui v'yitzias koach ha'poel shebe'etzem. It's the arousal of the etzem itself, or the revelation of its activity that comes from the potential to the reality. That's how he defines it. Another way to define it, or tomar hemshich hamesuba min asiba poelas. It's what comes. It's the result that was the result of the active cause. Kamo shir amanu l'kaman. He's going to explain in cause later on a very detailed system, and that's going to help us quite a lot in learning. But here he just gives a remiss to it. The siba poelas is he's going to give an example, one of the main causes, and it's the result of the siba poelas. It's the result of that cause which does the activity. Derech mashal. Hachimim hu hemshech hachom mei ha'esh. Heat is the result of the heating of the fire. In other words, the fire does the siba poelas of heating. Let's look at, just to make that clearer, we're going to now just switch into Derek Funos and see what he said about the poelas, just to give us a little review and also to make things a little clearer. And he called it the pu'ula again. See, the poelas is just one of the examples of them. The pu'ula, he says, v'hi ma'shehu poel bezula. So it's a thing that is the activity that acts on something else. And here he broke it into two parts. One was called the tivis, the tivis. V'hi ma'shehu poelas hanimsa echad b'zev. It's something that causes something else to happen in Teva. For instance, menakra lahu lamaya, this liquid that, when taken, can clean the intestines. So that does the pool of cleaning the intestines. The liquid is the etzem, but what it's doing is the pool of cleaning the intestines. The second type he defined over here is what's he called a ritzonis, which is really unique to man. It's what man uses when he wants to do an activity. Derech mashal hakoret hashma, when a person wants to read the Shema. So the activity he's doing, the man is doing, which is the etzem, is he's doing the pula of reading. Okay, so that's the idea of the pula, the activity. So when we have things, we talk about what pula they are doing. Okay.
Is there a difference between the
Pula.
Is there a difference
Yes.
between the two explanations that he says? The service
I don't.
or the Mashech HaMesuba Menasiba?
That's a good question. Excellent question. That's an excellent question. Let me think about it. Do you see a difference? There must be, because he says Otomar.
Right. So
I don't know why he talked about the Nisorer aspects. It's what awakens the Etzem. We're going to learn, and maybe I'll because she asked that question, I'll just tell you a preview over here. This is the chart where he talks about cause. Okay. These charts bigger than my screen. Okay. So when he's going to talk about cause, he talks a lot about activity. Okay. The cause of something usually is a poelis. Okay. Why does something happen? It's usually because something is causing that activity. Now, if you look at these causes, you'll see that there's for instance, let me see, I'm looking for the Messiah, for instance, here. You see over here? The main cause, the Siba Poelis, which is, remember, he's going to speak about the Siba Poelis. So the Poel here has things that what we call the ikari, the main cause. Like if one person does an activity on Shabbos as opposed to two people doing it, okay? So that's called the cause itself. That's whether it's by itself or with shutafim. That's the ikari. But he has tefillim, which is called a motivator. Okay, so for instance, we learned in the other, in Tfunos, what was the cause that Yethro came to be Jewish? So Chazal says what was ma'ora him to do the pu'ula of Miskayer was either hearing that about Har Sinai or the war against Amalek. Okay, these were things that were ma'ora him to wake him to do the activity. So what I'm trying to explain here is that when he speaks about the Poel here in Hayyom, I think we're going to have to wait a little in order to fully appreciate what he's saying. If you look at his words here, you see what it says here. It says, "He his oris etzem." It's what awakens the etzem. What does that mean? It's like if we talk about the etzem called Yesro, what awakened him to do the Pa'ula was Kriyat Yamsuf. Ogilu Yitzias HaKoch LePoel, be'etzem. Well, that just means that it's just a revelation of what always was inside. Okay? Now, here, that's talking about the Poel itself. Now here he talks about the Siba and Subav, Siba and Subav, and he says it's what causes the Mesubav from the Siba, as he's going to explain. So to answer you, it seems that there's to answer you clearly, I cannot put it that way, but I see here that he's talking about an action in general, and then he's talking about Siba Mesuba, which is usually an action. Okay, it seems as if he's using them or telling us these things are synonymous. Okay, in the Tfunos we saw very clearly you had a certain liquid that did a pool of cleansing the intestines. That's a pula. Now, why would that be different than Siba Mesuba? Well, if I ask you what was the cause of this of the cleansing of the Me'ayim, you would tell me, well, it was this liquid. So the liquid was the poelis. So more than that, I can't say. Okay, I mean I can't really magdir clearly why he said two things, but it is interesting that he put the two concepts together. Okay, and I know he's going to meld them together later on. But to actually split why one is called a poelis and one is called a seba, I would say, again, it's a question of how you want to look at it. Okay, you could say that the liquid was acted on the ma'ayim to cleanse it, or you could say the cause of the ma'ayim to be cleansed was the liquid. So more than that, I cannot say. Okay, I hope that's as clear as I can get it. If you can get it clear, I'm willing to, you know.
All right, we'll see what happens as we go through it.
Okay. Yeah, please, Hassan.
Perhaps, I mean, the example of Yisro, I'm not sure that would be the only example over here. Maybe you could say episode as something that one is as it were like from inside of a human being in a person's mind. When a person does a mice, it's only a gilui that was in his mind all along, correct?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when he actually was Megayer, when he was actually Megayer, that's the quote to the poem.
Right. I mean, the physical pu'ula of doing a gairus is only a gilui that in his mind he made it. There was in his oiros to do that. But I think maybe if we're saying that, if we say that water cleanses the insides, that's maybe one physical thing acting on another physical thing. Well, suppose, I mean, it's not that what it created itself, as it were. Meaning, in order for authorities, oidus to get created, that's created by itself. It's not in existence before. You know what I'm saying or not?
No. Not really.
Meaning, whenever I do any pu'ula, I only do it because I thought to do the pu'ula and then I do the ma'isa.
That's what he called tfunos, a pula v'ratzonis. That means is a or every pula of a b'nei adam is a pula of ratzon.
Right.
Correct.
But in order for me to do any pu'ula, I have to create an isoirus.
That's also, right? There's usually a isoirus in a pula, but some pulot are not really. Some pulot, like things that are done b'shogeg, you know, on Shabbos, that's a pula that you didn't have any, but that's not ratzonis, you'll tell me. Okay, decide. Well, okay. Usually Ritzonis has a powerful. I don't know if all of them do. As a Masorah, but I don't know if all of them do.
Okay, no, it doesn't work.
Okay. Anyway, there's three things here. There's that the pula is the hisorus of the etzem, or the gilui v'yitzias hakoach hapol sheba etzem. Otom, or alternatively, you can talk about it as the result. What caused the result? That's a different type of language. The first two languages is talking about the item itself, what action came out of the item. And the second way to talk about it is to talk about the cause and result. Now, you put the two things together, and I know they belong together, but exactly more than that, I can't say. Okay. Okay. His derech mashal. Oh, we read that. Okay. Now he's going to give some klale hapula. He's going to excuse me. Yeah. The klale of the pula is the following: Kol poel beratzon poel atachlis ma. When any poel that's done by a human being, which is a poel of desire or want, is always has a tachlis. He doesn't say it always has a Masorah. That's why I was worried. I don't know if it always has a Masorah, but it always has a tachlis. When a person does a willful act, he's always doing it toward a goal, toward a tachlis. Okay. Bepulos yesh pachos v'yoser. In any type of pulos, whether it's pula b'ratzon, pula b'teva, you can always talk about more or less. In other words, you can say things are the pula of cleaning the ma'ayim was done well or not well. Okay, there's always degrees. As some things don't have degrees, some things are black and white. If you say the woman was pregnant, it's either she was pregnant or not pregnant. It doesn't admit of degrees. But but some things do have degrees, and pulot do have degrees of more or less. And the third rule he has is that the pu'ula is shayach hevchim. And he gives an example there, marshal. Mechamem u'mekarer. You can talk about opposites in pula, not only degrees of, let's say, heating things up, but you can talk about opposites of the pula making something hot and the pula making something cold, putting it on the fire or putting it in the refrigerator. Okay, so the pulot that are done have both abilities of being degrees and of being opposites. Okay. Now he's going to talk about the hefel, which is the result of the pula. Now, that's what he says. Hu roshem ha-pula. It's the result of the pula. Again, we're going to be using these things because when we're talking, instead of grabbing or searching for terms which may be inexact or personal, he's trying to create a set of terms that can be used accurately and in a clear sense, and clearly what they refer to. Okay, so the pu'ula is the roshem of the hefel. I'm sorry, the hefel is the roshem of the pu'ula, and if you remember, and that's why I'm switching back and forth to Tunos here. The hefel he gave examples of hu roshem shenir sham v'nosem yimash polim bo'acherim. It's the impression that in the subject that was given by something else. For instance, b'nei ma'ayim shenikvu v'leicha v'sasmu. The intestines that were split and were wet and then sealed up again. So these are all the results that happened to the b'nei ma'ayim. Someone split them and made them wet and sealed them. Or yad tzeledispo, the hand touched the hot object and it withdrew. It withdrew. So the hefel is the withdrawal of the hand. Or cham mixaso cham bakulo. Very interesting that when a knife is heated on one side, so we say whatever's in the knife at the heated side travels through to the non-heated side. Cham mixaso cham bakulo. If that blade was a little bit hot on one side, then we say it extends through the whole thing. So the result of it being cham, being hot on one side of the blade, extends through the whole side of the blade. Okay. That's his examples of hefel. Now, in result, or you see, we are even using those words simultaneously between not the reaction, how do we say hefel? We said effect. Okay, the affection. Okay, the affection and the result are very close. Okay, hefel hu roshem apula, and the kaya hefel is the hefel yesh pachos myoter. We can have results which are greater and lesser. This, as we said, it was cleaner or not clean. The hefel is also shayach hefchim. Okay, we can say that something has been heated or something has been cooled. Okay, but they're not mutually exclusive. Okay, the next one he talks about is yachas. Yachas is the thing's relationship to other things, and he told us that it's later on he's going to tell us it's one of the largest units that he's going to talk about, because practically everything we talk about is relationships, right? How much something worth is relationship to money. Okay, yachas hu min kesher ben shnei devarim. It's the relationship between two things. Ba'avoro ye'omer be'echad mehem shuhu shel chavaro. Because of this connection, we say one thing is joined to the other thing. Perisho, kagon. Av shehu inyan mityaches esel ben. when the father has a yachas to the son. And of course, the son has a kesher and a relationship to the father. Why? Ki ein av ela sheyesh lo ben. Ve'ein ben el yesh lo av. So the yachas is the relationship between two things, and it's the forced relationship. It's not a casual relationship. It's the forced relationship between two things, like the av and the ben. Okay, let's look at his yachas over there in Tunos. Yachas mashe echad mit yaches l'zulaso derech mashal doro shel Moshe, or zaro shel Abraham. That's a specific relationship that Moshe has with that generation, or Abraham has with his protege. Let's see. Okay. So he says, what are the general rules of relationship? He says, the mikra hayachas gove b'ribuyo b'kol ha-mikrim. The mikra of yachas is the largest of all the mikrim. Shnei ha-mityachasim shavim behechrach beheder u'b'metzias. Whenever two things are related, behechrach, so then when one is in existence, we must say that the other one is in existence. When one is not present and the other one is not present. If we're talking about an av, we must always say that there is a ben. If we're talking about a ben, there must always be an av. If we're not talking about an av, so we're talking about a baal, then ben is irrelevant. Perisho. Behimotzei echad mitzius muchrach hasheni. When we find one, the Av or the Ben, in reality, so we know that the other one is there. It doesn't mean means it's alive. It means the relationship. That relationship must be established. V'chein beheder echad muchrach bitul hasheni. If we say that this person is not a father, so we know that he has no children. If we say he's not a son, so there are no sons, and meaning men and women, so there'd be no father. Ki ein av ela sheyesh lo ben, ve'im yesh av vadai ben. Ve'im ein av ein ben. If there's no av, there's no ben. I don't know if I was right before. If there's no ben, there's no av. Yeah, I think so. That's also true. It's if someone does not have ben meaning children, so then he can't be called a father. He can be called a husband, but not a father. Okay.
Could you go back to number one? I didn't get number one. Mikra yachas kover b'ribuye b'chol ha-mikram.
He says it's just the biggest one of all of them. We're
It's
always doing yachasim between things. We're saying this thing is kol, this thing is more. We're saying this thing was first, this thing was second. We're saying this thing was. Like you said in the other piece, this was the relationship of okay, this is my object and not your object. Okay.
Right. So he's just saying that it's a large subject. It's a large topic.
Yeah, he's saying that of all the mikrim, he says yachas is the biggest one. Okay, that's all he's saying. All right, zman. When we talk about the variable of zman, that's the mikra zmani be'etzem. It's the temporal aspect of anything we talk about. Dahainu shi'ur mirichoko min hatchila arasof. It's the distance between the beginning and end. It's very interesting. He took time in terms of distance, but it's the amount of time it goes from the beginning and the end of the thing that we're talking about. If we'll again go back to Tunos, there he said, Zman derech mashal, me'ematai korinata shma. At what time do you read the Shema? Or be'erev kol adam yatev yikor b'boka yamod. That's a double one. In the evening, a person should lie down and read, and in the morning he should stand up and read. So you have day and night. So Zman, of course, is a critical one of our variables. Ono is the mikra makomo be'etzem, dahainu achelek min olam shmamale mimenu. Ono, which he called, I don't know why he didn't simply call it makom as he did in Tunos, but it's the place that the etzem occupies in the world. Over there, he used the word makom. I don't know why I switch it. Derech mashal, Erevin, shtei gezushot zelem al-mizeh, two patios in a ruvin, one on top of the other, or shtei ayarot zesmuch, two cities that one were next to another, or esar batim zelefneim zeh. So that's the position it has in relationship to something else. Okay. That's where it is in the world. It's either above it, around it, near it. Okay, number 8 is matzav. Matzav is the attitude it has. Doesn't mean emotional attitude, physical attitude. Matzav is the mikra matzavi be'etzem, perish. Ofen himotzei chelkei ha'etzem b'makom zehu hanikra matzav. It's the manner in which we find that particular portion of the etzem in its place. Kagon, for instance, we're talking about man, whether he's standing, sitting, lying down, etc. And those were indeed the examples he gave in Tunos. It's the techuna hikyatsev menosik komo. It's the quality of how the thing is standing in its place. Derech mashal hakora et ha-megillah omed v'yoshev. A person who reads the Megillah, he can do it in both those mikri situations, standing or sitting. Be'erev kol adam yateh v'yikore v'boker ya'amod. According to Shammai, in the evening, a person should lie down. That should be his position. Saying Kriyat Shema in the morning, he should say Kriyat Shema standing up. So that's the position that he's in the place that he's in. Okay, the 9th variable that he speaks about is called kinyan, and that's the mikra mora min kinyan e nichnis be'etzem. It's anything that is acquired by the etzem, the item, o halbashalav, or it is clothed on him. Derech mashal. Hamalbish al adam, clothes on a man, o hamidos haknios benafsho, or the good personality traits, I hope. Could be better ones too, but anyway, the personality traits that he acquires to his being, or like anava and nedivos, humility and helping out people, kiyotzi b'zeh. Now, it was interesting to note, you asked a question, Avi, when we looked at this before. Let's go back to our concepts. When he discussed man, he used the word kinyan here. One of the qualities of man is that he has these things that he can acquire, whether they're theoretical knowledge, practical knowledge, or arts, whether they're arts that are called liberal arts or the workman's arts. Okay, so it was just interesting here, and I don't have an answer to that question. You asked about kinyan at that point. This kinyan and this kinyan look to be pretty much the same. What would be the difference between this kinyan and that kinyan? That's what you asked. Okay, so when it came to this man, he first described man quite a lot and talked about all his kinyanim, the question of the quality that different men have. And he spoke about the kinyanim of man, which was one of his nicknames over here, when he described those qualities. So I just wanted to bring that up. I think it's a good question. I don't know. Don't have a definitive answer to that one. But anything that the object acquires that's not part of itself, like if you put tzipui, what's that called, coating on wood, it's not the object itself, it's something that's on top of it. Now let's look at a little bit for help over there. in Tfunos. Oops, what happened to that one? That's not Tfunos. Okay, let's go here. We'll go down. See if I can find Kenyan here. There he speaks about Mischaber. Just going to look for it in a second. That's why I link these things. It's not fast. Okay, here he discusses what's called a mischaber. Now, I believe that's what he's talking about here in Kenyan. And he says a mischaber who kol mikra sheyislava v'yischaber lenosei. It's not the etzem itself. It's something that accompanies or is attached to the nosei. Nosef al musaf, atzmusaf. It's an addition to the etzem itself. They don't do the etzem itself. It's something that added onto it. And here he divides it into three parts. The first part he calls mash mischabe be'etzem shel nosei, o alav, o elav. It's either on it or to it. What does that mean? And here you see he talks about chachma, b'chacham. That's attached to the chacham, or kalus b'kal. Something being light, it means it has the quality of lightness or heaviness. So, or tzipui ala kli, o levush ala adam, the coating around a vessel, or clothes on a man. So derech mashal, and there he gave derech mashal. A behema misukenes. Yesh bo mikra musukan, hasakana. And the mipachat shavui b'mayim. Sheyesh bo mikra shel hiyel shavui b'mayim. So the mipachat is the etzem, or the animal is the etzem. It has this quality which is mischaber to it, which is called the kinyan. The second type he talks about it's a kinyan that's with it, but only in time. It shares the same time, like the pasha afsha im sli, the bread that happened to be roasted simultaneously with sli. So if we say the yetzim is the bread, it just so happens that simultaneously it happens to be in the same place as the meat that was roasted. Or kol shu'i gavimo tafel. The third type of mischaber he describes here is called kodem and muchar. The etzem can be mischaber to something before or after it. V'hu shekodem l'nosei o shivo acharav derech mashal notlen yadayim v'achakach mozgin esakos. Supposed to wash your hands. It's the poo you're supposed to do. Then the etzem man is supposed to do that poo, and then afterwards he's supposed to pour the cup. Hinei netilas yadayim hi kodemis l'mz. So that's how he talks about kinyanim here. It means it's not the etzem itself, of course, it's the mikra, but it's not even. But it's talking about things which are around or associated with, but not the thing itself. Okay, kinyan mikra more than a kinyan niknis be'etzem o halbashim. It's something that the etzem acquires, but it's not itself, or it wears. In other words, it surrounds it. Okay, so he describes. He says now when we talk about concepts, we talk about the etzem concept, the thing itself, the zach, and then we talk about variations or accidents or things that can occur to this particular thing. And he's defined 9 of these different variables that go on in objects. Okay, what could be concepts? That's what I mean. All right, that's the discussion of etzem and mikra. He says, Elu asar klala inyanei shezechanu. These are the 10 general concepts of musagim. Echad etzem v'tesha mikra. the etzem and the 9 mikrim. Tachtehem niklalim kol ineihem etzius l'madrigehem. Now, what we're going to do is use these etzems and mikras to start organizing our reality. Okay. So now, in order to organize reality, we're going to have to talk about levels of reality, going from the prat to the klal, going from the individuals and building up, and he's going to show us all the general levels of talking. But again, we need a lexicon here so that we'll be able to discuss things accurately and also be on the same page when we discuss ideas. So he's going to give us a lexicon of how to now build your organizational unit starting from the individual items like individual birds, and then creating bird, and then going higher into animal and so forth. He's going to give them names. That's what he's going to be doing at this point. Okay. I'm sorry we had a shorter class than usual because of the technical difficulties, but I think it's a good place to end here, because if not, then we'll run over in the other unit, the other class. Okay. So we'll stop here and.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to stay today for Hashem.
Oh, very good. Okay. Again, we have a lot of technical terms here, but we're going to put it together in units, and we're going to try to be consciously aware of when we're actually doing the learning process, or even speaking, it doesn't really matter, of which one of these processes we're doing. Okay? Let's say that. Let's go now to the second